how do we still have challenges of food and yet farmers are producing? And one of the things that we are actually working on is to help young students who've just graduated from college to be able to take up the role of extension services, as well as partnering with the public sector in a program that we call Jua Daktari Wako.
Thank you very much. Just before we go on to the next presenter, now that you have embarked on this option, tell us how we are going to manage to bring the youth into this business of agribusiness, particularly because we have tried for quite a while now, and we don't seem to be making much progress. Enrollment in the universities keeps dipping. So what is it that we need to do different for the Gen Zs?
Very interesting question. I normally want to avoid answering that particular question because I know of quite a number of young people who are already in agriculture doing fantastic job. However, to be able to bring in these young people, we have to show them money. We have to show them the value of what they're doing because they want money now. And a key aspect of it is that young people are digitally savvy. So whatever we are giving to them has to be something that they can receive digitally on their smartphones. But also, one of the things that we also have to do physically and really practically is to change the image of the African farmer. Because if these young people see that the African farmer are the poorest in their neighborhoods, they're the ones who have the most challenges, then they will never get attracted to that. So we have to change the image of the African farmer so that that farmer, these young people can see that, oh wow, that guy, that lady was able to buy their vehicle, they were able to do this, to succeed having been a farmer. So one of the things is to actually refresh who that African smallholder farmer is and change that image.
Thank you very much. Okay, go ahead.
Hello everyone, my name is Rosemary Nyamo. I'm representing Douglas Kangi, who is the Director Crops. I'm the Deputy Director Crop Resources in the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development. As a national government, our mandate, as you heard from the CS yesterday, is really on policy development. The second mandate is on capacity building. Capacity building stakeholders in the agriculture sector, capacity building the county staff in the agriculture sector. That is mainly our mandate as a national government. And you have asked about two challenges that we face. Of course, we are talking of the aging farmer, and we are talking of the youth disinterest in agriculture. But that is slowly changing, and we are seeing the youth. That is why we are approaching the 4K club approach so that we mentor our children from the young age to know that agriculture is not a punishment, that agriculture is actually, you can do business in agriculture. And also teach them on nutrition, because before we have emphasized on making money, but not feeding well. We must produce nutritious food and also consume the food. And unfortunately, we are importing a lot of food, and then we waste a lot of food as well. About 30% of the food we produce is going to waste. And that is a lot of food, which can feed actually 1.6 million people. So if we can cut on waste, then we will also have increased productivity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On that note, on the young farmers, one of the experiences that a lot of us have come across is that farmers in a country like Holland are generally very young people. How did they get to that level in terms of developing their youth?
Well, in Holland, and of course they are the major buyers of produce, horticultural produce. They do a lot of logistics and opposed to farming, right? But technology really is the basic draw of the youth in Netherlands. It is digitized, and it is large scale, and so they use very little labor in the farm because it is really automated. So that is the attraction of the youth. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And now we'll go to Gerald. And Gerald, I'm asking him to share his experiences in terms of dealing with one of the questions that we have discussed over and over again in terms of organizing farmers organizing farmers and other stakeholders in their value chains. And this is an area that we have a lot of lessons to learn from Gerald. Gerald?
Thank you very much, our moderator. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gerald Masila, working with the Eastern Africa Grain Council as the Executive Director. And the Eastern Africa Grain Council is a membership organization for the grains value chain stakeholders, where grains are the entire basket of cereals and pulses. And we serve our stakeholders, first of all, giving them a voice in matters policy, engaging, agreeing on positions, and engaging government so that we have policy that is supportive to the sector. Secondly, market that are structured through structured trading systems, thirdly, through training, capacity building, and fourthly, on market information, providing market information. And so to your question, the specific challenges we address and even on the issue of how we work with the other member partners who are working with us in this space, we address a number of challenges. The first one is policy, and policy is the biggest risk that we face in our business. When you are in a situation where you do not know what law will be passed tomorrow, what regulation will be passed tomorrow, and its impact to your investments, whether you are going to export, import, or going to produce, that's always a very, very big issue. We engage very closely with the Ministry of Agriculture, and we put forward our recommendations, and we are quite glad that working closely with the ministry, EAGC was able to be in the lead in the creation of the Warehouse Receipt Systems Council. That council is now in place, and thanks to EAGC for bringing the concept to government, and now we have the entire entity there as a regulator for warehouses, and we'll be seeing them doing much more than just grain, and that's just one example on the work around policy. But the more important one is on collective action. And in collective action, the only way to solve our smallholder challenge, I keep saying, is to stop being smallholder. So how do we stop being smallholder? It's by getting together, getting collective. So getting farmers into farmer groups, into cooperatives, and then being able to consolidate the land that they're working on, select a value chain that is suitable for their agroecological zones, aggregate their produce together, put it in a warehouse, market together collectively, and be able to enjoy economies of scale that can help them even access finance and access markets in a structured way. And so that is one major thing that we keep saying, and we've seen even in today's and yesterday's engagements. There's still quite a lot that needs to be done for us to change our mind shift. We are talking about transformation, but we need to change our mind shift from dealing with individual single smallholder farmers into making sure that they get into a farmer group and then putting in all the interventions when they're in a farmer group, because that's the only way we can benefit from the collective action that can solve all the many other issues and that can actually bring the transformation we are looking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerald. One thing that I would like to bring to your attention is this is one of the patient membership organizations that I know very well. It took them 10 years to get the WRSC Act in place, and that didn't happen until 2019. This is private sector pushing government to put in place a regulatory body. And why did you do that, Gerald?
Very good question. When we're looking at the structuring the markets and making structure in the markets, warehouses are central, they are critical. Warehouses give us the opportunity to bring in the commodity, aggregate it, and standardize it. Standardization means you will make sure that what comes into that warehouse has been checked to fit or to be compliant to the standards And we have the standards through the Bureau of Standards and all the processes of standardization. And so it is in the process of bringing the produce to the warehouse that you can get that produce sampled, tested, and certified that it actually meets the requirement, it's fit for human consumption, and it will not poison you when you consume it. The alternative is what has been going on, where you have crops harvested and taken all the way to mills and even consumed without anybody testing and confirming if they are fit for human consumption. And we have seen the problems. You have seen even acute aflatoxicosis and all these sort of issues. So why is a warehouse regulator an important player? It is important because when you have an act and with all the provisions of the act and the regulations in place, and if you are an owner of a warehouse, you can put it forward to be registered, to be licensed, to be certified, to operate under the act. It means that you can give universal service to people. And it means the receipt that is issued by that certified warehouse, backed by legislation, will have universal acceptability to be almost currency. To almost be like money, because wherever you take it, whether it is to a bank or wherever you use it, it will have that legal power. And therefore, when you are a farmer, you have deposited your grain, you have that receipt, it is money, literally. You can use it in a bank as a collateral to get short-term credit. You can even trade it. You don't need to go carrying the bags of maize or whatever. You just trade the receipt, and particularly if there's a trade platform that can do that, you do it. And if we're able to do it in scale, big time, nationally, regionally, then there is value. What we have been doing at EAGC in developing the concept, testing the concept, piloting the concept, we've been working on the law of contract. And the law of contract, it only covers the people who are parties to the contract. Anyone else who is not a party to the contract is a stranger. And so you cannot, really scale and make it big, but with the law behind it, then you're able to scale and create benefit. And that's why we have pushed to ensure that we have this regulator.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Gerald. This is a perfect example of the power of collective action and of the fact that it is the private sector that should actually be pushing for the right regulation, because it's a private sector that understands the business that they conduct, and they know what is practicable, they know what can actually be implemented in terms of policy, and therefore they really ought to take a center stage where policy formulation is concerned, and then policy implementation, and to actually own that policy that they have supported for their own benefit, not as a punitive measure, but for their own benefit. I could go on about this forever, and the other beautiful thing about EAGC that Masila didn't mention is that the Warehouse Receipt Council is piloting the system of issuing the warehouse receipts. And guess what? The regulator has actually borrowed or leased the system that EAGC uses to actually regulate them. And this is the kind of collaboration that we'd really like to see between us, the private sector, and the government to facilitate trade, because at the end of the day, what we're looking for is how do we enhance productivity. And productivity we really see at the point at which the dollars change hands. Another example of an organized farmers organization that is also going through great milestones and achieving quite a substantial level of success is the Potato Council. And I would like to ask Wachira to also talk to us about his experiences in forming this Potato Council into what it is today, actually in a relatively short time, if I can see where you really started to make an impact. Wachira.
Thank you, moderator. My name is Wachira Kagungo, CEO, National Potato Council. Potato Council is a multi-stakeholder organization that brings stakeholders from public and private sector, both government agencies and county governments, and also farmers and traders and all these. And it was formed about 12 years ago, mainly because stakeholders realized that there is a lot going on, but the crop is not, it was not looked at as a serious crop. And there was a need to transform it and do some lobbying and advocacy so that it could be supported, it could be recognized, because people believed